So after this great demo of Dagger Cloud, I now show you a simple way to bootstrap a Dagger module. So as you know, Dagger is programmable and has a complete API that allows you to do many different things, pretty much any kind of automation. And sometimes some users ask us, where should I start? And I'm going to show you a simple way to start, which is starting from a Dockerfile. So everyone understands the syntax of Dockerfile, and everything you can do in a Dockerfile, you can do it, express it in the Dagger API. And obviously you can do much more, but it's a good starting point to start with something that you know and that you can then take and evolve. So I wrote a module that's called Docker to Dagger that contains a conversion function that basically takes a Dockerfile as input and output a new Dagger module. And I'll show you how it works. I also wrote README. So what I'm going to show you now, the idea is that it's not just to show you, hey, look at this cool demo that's really powerful because it's actually using AI and all that stuff. It's actually the goal is really to give you something that you can use. And so I'm gonna walk you through the README that I will post actually on the chat. And if you want, you can posting the comment. Here you go. So if you want, you can follow along. Everything that I will show you now, you can basically redo it on your side following the README, and the code is open source, obviously. So as a starting point, I will take an example project with a Dockerfile. That's not too simple, actually. I picked something that is interesting. It's an example from Docker, actually, that is in the docs. It's a to-do app. It's a small to-do app, but the thing that's interesting in that to-do app is if I open the Dockerfile, you'll see that it's not the classic Dockerfile that's 5 lines of code, and it actually uses several build stages, and so this is when it gets interesting to translate this into a Dagger pipeline. So in order to convert it, you don't have to clone my module. Actually, you can use a Dagger module directly from Dagger, so you only need Dagger installed. And you can directly copy paste this command that I will explain to you. But basically, you load the module remotely. So again, you don't have to clone the code. You call the function from Dockerfile and give some arguments. So it has two different arguments: an API key for Entropic. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm using an LLM to translate the Dockerfile into a Dagger module. So you just need an API key to access that, and you give the Dockerfile as an argument. So it's basically the file that's in the project. It's this file right there that I just showed you, and then you export the content. And so the interesting thing is the Dagger module will create a directory and generate the complete module and export it in the new directory. So you can give it a name like I don't know, my module, for instance. And so I will run it and see what happens. So it's basically reading the file, and then it's asking the LLM. It provides to the LLM a couple of examples, and that's actually I'll show you this part after I will see what happens with the module, because it's actually, it can be a good example to use an LLM with Dagger, because there are a couple of interesting things happening in the module. But here, let's see what we got as input. So I see that there is a new directory. So I'm going to show you. So the directory has a couple of files. It's a complete. If I do a Dagger functions, it should build properly. So here, yeah, Dagger can actually build and introspect the module right away that was generated. It works out of the box. So I'll show you the code of the module to see what we have. And so that's entirely generated. In the comments, I see that I instructed the module, and actually the LLM, to keep the original Dockerfile as in the comment, so I can actually see what has been translated. And here I see native Dagger codes on the Go SDK, so I can see the different stages of the Dockerfile. And so I will actually run it. I'll go back to the initial directory. Again, you can copy paste simply this command, and so you don't have to figure out what are the function names to call. So here again, we are writing this. We are calling this time the new module. Actually, I renamed it to my module, I think. So I need to rename that and call build, and then I pass a local directory. So usually in a Docker build, you have a context directory that you use for copying your code and things like that. So here, that translates into an argument that's called local directory, and you give it the context exactly as you would do in a Docker build. And so I'm calling this time the module that was generated. It's actually pretty fast because I think I have a couple of things in my Dagger cache. That's another advantage is I can rerun that several times and work on my pipeline, making it evolve and everything. And everything that doesn't need to be redone is just taken from the cache like any other Dagger pipeline. So here, what I see is the new Dagger, the new module that was generated returns a container. So the advantage is that I can take this container and do other thing with it. So for instance, if I want to make my pipeline evolve, add functions, install Dagger modules to do like, for instance, scanning or anything like that, I can do it. The interesting thing is there is an exposed port in there because the example is actually to run an app. So I'm gonna call up on that container. So it will run the service. And here I have a service up and running. It's basically my app. So I'm not sharing my browser. But it basically shows a simple to do app. If you do it yourself, you'll see. But if I called localhost 3000, I can see that it's a JavaScript app that replies on the port 3000. And so yeah, and that's it. So I have this new module that works that I can use. And obviously, you can use this Docker to Dagger module to translate pretty much any Docker file. It happens sometimes that you have weird syntax, like for instance, if the Docker file is using an experimental front end, there are some things that will be hard to translate, but you will end up with code that you can modify. So even if you have a small mistake in there, like which can happen, you can figure it out easily to fix it. And so yeah, and that's about it. And the rest is I was just planning to show you some code, but very quickly because I want to leave time to Solomon for his demo. But that's the code of the module itself. So basically, you can reuse that as an example to do other. If you have an idea of a project of using an LLM, building an AI app, and leverage Dagger for the cache and for the DAG engine, you can also look at the code of this module as an example. Because the interesting thing here is the module, as you saw before, is leveraging the cache of Dagger and exporting data. So here, I created a directory, I generated a bunch of files. It's fairly simple, as you can see, because it's actually the LLM doing the heavy lifting of taking every single line of Dockerfile and translate that into a Dagger call. But basically, what is implemented here is on top of the prompt, we give the LLM a couple of examples. So there is an example module that's taking a bunch of examples of, here is a Docker file and here is the how it translates into the Go API, and the LLM is quote understanding. it's not really smart, but it's taking the example as replicate that to Dockerfiles that it never saw before. So yeah, basically that's how it works. And that's about it.
That's amazing. You can generalize from just a handful of examples. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it works pretty well. I tried with a lot of different Dockerfiles, and I was very impressed. It really feels like you ask someone to translate for you. It's just that it takes a few seconds. So
nice. And one of the questions that came in is, what about build platform and target platform, especially when converting a build that's using BuildX Builder with multiple native nodes?
So I tried that actually. I tried with Rust example. I remember that had a targeted platform for Linux, and I'm using basically I was translated to another platform. It works. It depends if you rely on BuildX to. It really depends on if you're using, like as I was saying before, a specific front end for some instructions. Like for instance, I know there are some experimental front end that add some options when you do a copy with specific mount options in your Dockerfile that can, there are only 3 examples right now in this that we provide to the LLM. So over time, I was planning to identify what's not working ideally, because I fixed a bunch already. That's why now I'm able to translate a lot of different Docker files that the LLM doesn't know. And then if we hit like a point where there is something that the LLM doesn't know how to translate, even with an experimental front end, we can simply add an example to the project. And I think it will work. I mean, the results that I had so far, I'm confident that it should be fine. It actually implements arguments, also build arguments, pretty well. It translates that into arguments to the Dagger function. So yeah,
Nice.
give it a try.
Awesome. And one of the other questions that came in for, all of us are playing with different LLM stuff, but there are enterprises where they don't have access to that. So one of them was asking, does this work without AI? And for context, it's like if they didn't have access to an LLM.
So right now it does not. I actually started to implement a static generator that's not as good as the LLM, unfortunately. But technically it doesn't. It should be doable to have that static generator be implement pretty much everything that the Dockerfile implements. So basically, TLDR is right now no, it doesn't work without an LLM. But
you could run one locally, right? I mean, I'm sure.
You can run it locally with. Pretty sure you can adapt this module to use a local LLM via Olama.
I would do that.
Sure. I don't know if that would be acceptable for different organizations, but if the concern is to send the data to a remote API, definitely the local LLM option should work as well.
Nice.
No one needs to know.
Or you can
he
also
says on air
ask a human
in a recorded demo saying the name.
Yeah, I mean,
asking the question.
There's so much potential here. Oh my god, you could have like your own for people that like OpenAI. You could have like a custom GPT for your company, maybe, or people want to play with DeepSeek, or people want to. Like say Olama locally. I mean,
and those are all swappable. I mean, it's literally the same API.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Insert AI tool here.
I have to say buzzwords like DeepSeek occasionally. People are like,
right, exactly. We got to come up on all the algorithms.
Stock market moved somehow.
Tag everything. Awesome. Thank you, Sam, for that. I appreciate it. It's very cool. And then Sam already added the link in the chat, and also added the link in the general chat in our Discord too. So hop in there if you have any questions, or you want to play with it and you're getting stuck. Our Discord channel is the best place to go for that. So thanks again, Sam, for joining. Appreciate it.